following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Call to order the November 9th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Councilmember Smith for our ceremonial opening. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. For generations, millions of Americans have answered the call to serve, taking the sacred oath to defend and preserve our nation's ideals of liberty and democracy. Congress has provided that November 11th of each year be set aside as a legal public holiday to honor our nation's veterans. And to quote President Biden, on Veterans Day, we honor our nation's veterans who have given so much to protect our freedoms and the freedoms of others around the globe. And I call on all Americans, including civic, not-for-profit, and fraternal organizations, places of worship, schools, and communities to support this day with commemorative expressions and programs, unquote. As the only veteran on this council, I am proud of Cary's efforts to support the President's directive. For example, this past Friday, we held our annual Veterans Luncheon, which was served as a drive-through due to the COVID restrictions that we were under. And it was amazing. I got to meet a 94-year-old World War II veteran and had an opportunity to chat with him briefly. It was a rewarding and humbling experience. But more important now is this Veterans Day, this Thursday, we will hold our annual Veterans Day observance at our Veterans Freedom Park starting at 11 a.m. And I encourage all of you to come out and join us. It's a ceremony that will feature remarks from several guest speakers and, of course, patriotic music from the Old North State Brass Band. If you want the details on that, just go to www.townofcary.org and just search for special events, and you'll get all the information of what's going on this Thursday. Now, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Smith, thank you for that opening and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We now move to adoption of the agenda. If you're following along, that's item 3. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move to recognitions, reports, and presentations. And we're at the time of our meeting where we're going to announce the Hometown Spirit Award winner. And so I would invite Brent Miller, who's our 2019 winner, to meet me at the podium. Brent, I skipped a year. You're the 2020 winner.
2020, yes, sir.
Spirit of 2020. At this time, let's see. Oh, if you were with us earlier tonight, we had a reception over at the Page Walker where we talked about the nominees and how special these people were. And I can't think of three better people that have been nominated for the Hometown Spirit than the ones we have with us this year. And so at this time, I would call out their names and ask them to stand so that everybody can see them. We have Sarah Martin, Carla Michaels, and Barry Mitch. So, Brett, are you ready? All right, it's time. I'm dying to know.
2021 Hometown Spirit Award winner is Sarah Martin.
Well, this is quite surprising. I was honored and humbled to have been nominated for the award this year, and I feel like at the reception just a few minutes ago, I was talking about how it's just so wonderful to be in a room with people who all love Cary. And so I thank the other nominees as well for all that they have done to make Cary such a wonderful place. And I also relayed to the group there that we literally fell upon Cary about 30 years ago, knowing nothing about the place, knowing no one in the town. And my husband and I moved here to start our careers and started our family, and we've put down roots, and we've brought family from Virginia and from Florida to move here with us. We absolutely love Cary. And I think one of the things that makes it so special is the rich diversity, the wonderfully, wonderfully diverse community of people from all over the place, whether they're from Cary itself or whether they're from somewhere in North Carolina or from another state. They all come and just put their mark on the town. And serving this past year as the Cary 150 Task Force Chair, actually past few years, as the Cary 150 Task Force Chair, I have had the opportunity to meet so many more people in Cary, and I just tell you, this is the best place to live in America. There's no question in my mind, and I feel like we are lucky to have such a wonderfully supportive council and a wonderfully supportive community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's so much fun to do that. That's the best part of my job, one of the best parts of my job. Okay, we now move to our second recognitions and reports, and it's the Cary 150 History Moment. Mr. Yerha.
Thank you, Mayor. This month's history moment is going to be a little bit different than the previous ones. It's going to be the public debut of a poem that was written especially for our 150th anniversary, titled simply, "To Cary." Here's to Cary in its long, storied past. Self-reliant with dreamers, the town grew up fast. At 50 cents an acre near Old Crabtree Creek, once called the place in between for travelers to seek. It's where Frank Page and Catherine would raise all their young, bringing business and commerce, staying humbly unsung. God-fearing, plain-speaking, and somewhat contrary, Frank quickly decreed the town's name would be Cary. a train station, a sawmill, churches, and farms. It weathered the damage when its son took up arms. Soon it was known for its pioneered learning, and teetotalers, too, keeping brewmasters yearning. No neon signs, which the folks here would hate. The green space and parks really make this place great. Live inspired, our motto, fits to a T, the town we became and continue to be. Analytics, insurance, and tech of all sorts, entertainment and artists, even amateur sports. Once a bedroom community, how we've prospered and bloomed. Loving people and loving planet, the economy's boomed. Throughout its fair history, Cary always dreamt bigger, creating community with values and vigor. The best place to live, small town spirit galore. Here's to Cary, the place we adore.
Awesome.
Special thanks tonight to the team of Moss and Ross who created this poem for us, and as always to Matthew and Ginny for their help as they help every month. And as our anniversary year draws to a close, I would like to recognize the citizens on our Cary 150 task force who worked along with Ginny and me and with our amazing staff to make this year a success under extremely difficult circumstances, believe that. So task force members, if you are here, please stand and give a wave as I read your name. There's Sarah Martin, the chair of our committee. Sarah has set a record tonight for most recognitions at a single council meeting. There's also Carissa Cohn-Johnson, our vice chair. Is Carissa up there? And Travis Wright Colopy. I saw Travis before there. And Brent Miller. Don Hamilton. I don't know if I've seen Don. Let's
Give him a hand anyway.
Charlotte Stoneman. Shuchi Gupta. And our two team members, Raphael Lee and Shreya Koda. Your work is not over yet, task force. We're still meeting. We still have more we have to do, so don't think this is the end. But I appreciate your work, and I turn it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ura, and I look forward to celebrating our 150th anniversary one more year.
I think we can do that.
All right. We now move to the Public Speaks Out portion of our meeting. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There were 3 opportunities to speak at Public Speaks Out through written comments, calling in, or attending in person. And if you are here in person and you would like to speak, I'd ask that you take a seat in the rows to my right that are shown as reserved. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments, and speakers may speak on any topic unless it's a public hearing, and that's to your advantage because you get more time at a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. There's a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light, and when the green light turns into a yellow light, that means you have 30 seconds remaining. And when the yellow light turns into a flashing red light, that's the point that I'll interrupt you. Again, not trying to be rude or mean, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers. To help have an efficient Public Speaks Out, I would ask that the clerk summarize written comments first, then call on remote speakers, and then follow that with those who are joining us in person to speak. And I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting, and please respect that. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or anything else that may distract from this meeting. So now is the time for the public speaks out, and I'll call on our town clerk.
We had one written comment, no name was given. It was about disruption to McGregor Downs through multiple issued permits.
Okay?
We had no call-in speakers. Our first registered speaker is George McDowell.
Mr. McDowell?
My name is George McDowell, and may it please Your Honor, esteemed members of council, Mr. Overton, Ms. Glover, and Ms. Johnson. Council, thank you for planting 7 beautiful cherry bark oaks. In the 6 weeks since you planted them, they've already turned a rich red color, and you can see them from one side of Cary Parkway already. May you live in good health for many years to see them grow tall and wide. Mr. France, if you'd like to plant a tree or trees, we're pleased to accommodate you at your convenience. Our public speaks out tonight about the tree that Chief Desimitz planted, a direct descendant of the Oklahoma City bombing survivor tree. That tree, an 80-year-old American elm, grew in the parking lot across the street from the Murrah building. When McVeigh's bomb exploded, the tree took the full force of the initial explosion. It also suffered the rebound blast from the shock wave that bounced backward from what was left of the Murrah building about 2 seconds later. The 2 waves blew all the leaves off the tree, broke many branches, and pushed the trunk off at an angle. Some months later, at a memorial service for the 168 people who were murdered in the attack, folks noticed that the elm was growing back tiny leaves. Collectively, this was viewed as a symbol of revival and renewal, and plans to cut down the tree were scrapped. The tree was nursed back to health and became the centerpiece of the Oklahoma City National Memorial. At some point in the design, an architect informed that a root of the tree would have to be cut to allow for construction of the wall. He was told by angry survivors that the tree was to be the centerpiece of the memorial, and that by act of Congress and signature of the president, it was designated a national monument. He was further told that anyone responsible for damaging that national monument would spend 5 years in Leavenworth. The workaround was to install a section of 6-foot diameter pipe through which the root could grow, and a footer for the wall was built on top of that pipe. 26 years later, the tree thrives within the memorial. It has attained its lofty national status by surviving a terrible and cowardly act. But the tree was beloved locally even before the bombing. It was the only tree of note within the Murrah building parking lot. In spring, summer, and fall, its wide canopy shaded about a dozen parking spots. These became the choice parking spots for obvious reasons, and people would come to work early in hopes of getting one. In midsummer, as early as an hour early. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell.
Our
Any other?
Our next registered speaker is Isabel Maddox.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Isabel Maddox, P.O. Box 946, Raleigh, 27602. I'm here tonight with Blue Hill Development, Julie Gavigan, leading that team, and Whit Cozart, also Glenda Topp as our land planner. I'm here to speak briefly about rezoning case 20 REZ 08 on Louis Drive. It's a townhouse and single-family development, and I want to be very brief. I just want to tell you that this case, which is on your consent agenda for tonight, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We had a unanimous planning board recommendation. We have staff support, and importantly, we've entered into a private agreement with the neighbors, which we addressed several matters that couldn't be put into conditions, but in that agreement, they also withdrew any opposition they had had previously to the case. We started out, they had some opposition. We met with them at least 4 times, and we went back and forth and agreed on some new conditions as well as some separate things that we couldn't put in the conditions. And so I just wanted to report that to you, that we have come to an agreement with them. We have a signed agreement, and we think the case is in very good shape, and we look forward to your approval later tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all the registered speakers.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak at Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, we'll close Public Speaks Out, and we'll move to the consent agenda, which is item 4, if you're following along. For the benefit of people watching our meeting on streaming or other services, I'll take a moment to review our consent agenda item. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all of these items. We have interlocal agreement for provision of water service to 5921 Farm Pond Road in Apex, 21A08 Stanley Martin Homes LLC annexation, 20 REZ08 Louis Drive rezoning and consistency statement, 20A07 Louis and Dillard annexation. Call for public hearing for 21A14 Boone annexation. Resolution authorizing condemnation, Higgins Greenway Phase 3, PR 1267. Approval of agreement with Wake County for capital management funding for Cary sports venues. Street lighting policy revisions. Adjustment to adopted meeting schedule. Would council members like any of these items pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And that takes us to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that apply to Public Speaks Out with one exception. Speakers now have 5 minutes each for their comments. Our first public hearing is 21 REZ13 Shri, I'll just say the Shri Temple. Chief Development Officer Scott Berry will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this rezoning tonight, but it will be referred to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation, and it will return back to us at a later date. Mr. Berry.
Good evening, Council. The membership of the Sri Venkatswara Temple are seeking an amendment to the existing zoning conditions to the property as they continue efforts to meet the needs of the community. The request pertains to the property at 121 Balaji Place, located at the 9400 block of Chapel Hill Road. The property is zoned O&I conditional use, and that designation would remain, but new and modified conditions are proposed for the site. 2 years ago, you approved the request for the Rajgopuram, an eloquent gateway monument near the temple's entrance. Multiple zoning conditions restricted sound and lighting, prohibited telecommunications equipment, and limited the height of this monument. Those conditions are not going away. But the temple is seeking to add an assembly hall to the property for weddings and religious education opportunities. To achieve this, they have added club, lodge, or hall to the list of permitted uses, proposed the maximum square footage of occupiable structures on the property will not exceed 55,000 square feet. This would include the existing temple and allow for construction of a marriage and assembly hall. To stay within this square footage limits, the applicant has offered to remove several existing structures on the property. Finally, they have offered to provide 2 electrical vehicle charging stations on the property. The subject buildings to be removed include several detached dwellings that front Chapel Hill Road, creating an opportunity to improve the streetscape plantings across the property frontage. And also included is the removal of several small storage structures and buildings that are not visible from the streets. These changes will add to the aesthetics and functionality of the site. In our preliminary review of the request against policies of the Imagine Cary Community Plan, staff finds that the work, shape, move, and serve chapters are most applicable for this rezoning. This will expand cultural assembly opportunities, which help support a diverse workforce in our community. This project represents redevelopment along a highly visible corridor, Road improvements will be required across the property frontage, helping improve the safety along Chapel Hill. And by providing EV charging stations, this zoning condition may help to improve air quality. The Imagine Cary Community Plan Future Growth Framework Map identifies the property in the traditional neighborhood category where religious assembly uses are appropriate. Property owners within 800 feet of the site subject property were notified by mail exceeding both LDO and state requirements, and information about the public hearing is on the town's website. The property was posted, and staff facilitated a virtual neighborhood meeting on October 6th. 25 people, plus the applicant and staff, attended. Most attendees voiced support for the use, but there were concerns addressed about traffic on Chapel Hill Road, congestion at the entrance to the temple, and that sometimes visitors to the temple park in adjacent neighborhoods. Since the public hearing, staff received 2 emails from citizens voicing concerns related to traffic and parking, and we've also had multiple emails from citizens offering support to the proposed assembly hall, since it would provide opportunities for both marriage ceremonies and Sunday school classes. This concludes staff's presentation. Following the applicant's comments, I'll be available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. There were 3 opportunities to participate in tonight's public hearing through written comments, calling in, or attending in person. Those instructions were posted on the public notice and online agenda and printed agenda. At this time, I'll call on the town clerk to summarize written comments first, then we'll call on remote speakers, followed by those who have signed up to speak in person.
We'll allow the applicant to speak.
We'll call on the applicant at this time. I am so sorry, Ms. Topp. And she's been waiting 2 years to come back and speak to us.
Yes. So, well, good evening, Mayor and members of council. Glenda Topp with Glenda S. Topp and Associates. So I was thinking, it's been 2 years to the month, and I was here when you all approved the tower, because I went back to see where I was. And then the other thing I just thought of, so I started working here in 1979, and these 2 years is the longest I've ever been away from Cary. It's quite strange. I'm a little bit nervous because I haven't been around these many people, but it's good to be here, and I did miss it, so thank you. I'm here tonight representing the temple. I want to thank Mr. Berry. He did a very thorough job going over the specifics of the case, so I won't repeat those. I just want to add a couple of comments. As you can imagine, the temple has grown substantially since it's come to Cary over 15 years ago, and the Assembly Hall is something that they've had in their vision since they've been here. It's a use that will allow weddings, special activities, Sunday school to occur in the building. And actually, some of the activities have gone outside because of lack of space. So this does allow them to have a space for people to congregate inside. As Mr. Berry pointed out, there are houses that are being removed adjacent to Chapel Hill Road, and this will allow for a streetscape to be planted in front of the temple, which, along with the demolition of those houses, will enhance the visual appearance of the location of the temple. The road will be improved in front of the temple, improved access. Also, with the approval, there was a concern that was mentioned about parking. They will be bringing the parking up to Town of Cary standards, better laying out where the parking is. Of course, the new building will have its own parking, so we're looking for parking to be improved. Also want to add, the temple listened to the folks at the neighborhood meeting, and there were some items that they have agreed to do, not zoning conditions, but just wanted to mention it. There was an issue about an existing light on the site that's been there for a while. They removed it. Over the weekend, I got several emails from members of the temple and pictures, so that light is gone. So I know there are people over there that are happy for that. Yes, there is a problem with parking. They are looking at putting some signs up directing people where to park and where not to park. And we do believe that with the addition of the building, the parking will be more efficient, thus, helping also with the parking issue. And lastly, As you know, the temple really is the gateway of coming into Cary from the west, and it's important for them, for people to see the beauty of Cary and to showcase the town. And they believe that with this improvement, demolition of the houses, and of course the tower that's going up, that they will just enhance this interest in the Cary. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. There are members from the temple here tonight, and again, thank you, and it's very strange to be back, but it's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Top. Okay, I messed up once. I'm going to try round two. Here we go. Take two. Now's the time for public hearing for 21 REZ 13. And I'll call on the town clerk for summary of printed comments, followed by those who are remote and then those who are in person.
So we had 30 written comments. Corinne Bennett wrote in requesting the left turn lane be fixed into Park West Town's neighborhood and expressed difficulties about entering their neighborhood now. Mark Fox shared concerns about ever-increasing traffic in the area and encouraged the installation of traffic lights. Harry Gunpathy encouraged council approval of the rezoning as it will enhance the infrastructure in the area. Heidi Jeager shared concerns on behalf of Park West Town's neighborhood, including the size of the building, location of the building, the unsafe exit from their neighborhood, and the influx of traffic on Chapel Hill Road. Rahika supported the rezoning and made a suggestion for a traffic signal or a different point of entry for the adjacent neighborhoods. Parnar shared concerns about traffic and narrow roads in the area, including that cause issue for the Park West townhomes. We had 25 people submit the following comment, or something similar to it. I'm writing to express support for the proposed rezoning. The proposed assembly hall will include a Sunday school for our kids.
Okay.
We have no call-in speakers, and then we had 7 people register to speak. Our first registered speaker is Kama.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Kirtana Koma, and I am a senior at Panther Creek High School. Today, I stand before you representing SV Temple Gurkulam as a past student and current youth lead volunteer. SV Temple Gurkulam was started almost 18 years ago and is a Sunday school program backed by passionate volunteers and dedicated teachers who come together to teach young children about the Hindu culture, spirituality, values, yoga, and meditation. Gurkulam's mission is to provide a supportive and positive spiritual learning environment and enrich future generations with cultural and spiritual heritage while enhancing humility, truthfulness, discipline, self-confidence, and selfless service. Over the years, we have had around 5,000 students from ages 3 through 14 taught through Gurkulam classes in the Cedar Fork Community Center until the pandemic hit. Even though that facility catered to our needs quite well, we believe a permanent facility within Temple premises would be all the more auspicious and invigorating to the community and students. Furthermore, Gurkulam classes in the Temple premise would increase enthusiasm among the community, leading to increased enrollment and participation. I am very excited at the prospect of having Gurkulam classes in a facility part of the Lord's humble abode. I strongly believe the Temple is the right place where spirituality blossoms. We appreciate your consideration towards the rezoning request to have a beautiful cultural and spiritual education. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lakha Baja. All right. So we'll
No?
go to the next speaker, Lavanya Al Jensen. Okay. Our fourth registered speaker is Nasima Tabuta. Oh. Did you come down? Did you register to speak?
Just come down and spare me.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Dr. Raj Palavaram. I'm a practicing physician in North Carolina since 1998. And I'm also chairman, president, board of trustees in SV Temple. And first of all, let me thank you all for being there for us. And we're a community, we started a small few decades ago. And along with that, a small temple started in 1998. Ever since, the temple has grown up along with the community, which has grown up quite a bit. When I came in, it was a small town. All my friends said, I came from New York, actually, that's where I did my residency and a part of fellowship and all that. They said, why are you going to a small town? And somehow I said that place is going to be the right one. So, and sure enough, soon after I came back, and I brought about 15 doctors. Most of them are surgeons, gastroenterologists, neurologists, in all specialties. So they're here, they're all practicing, they're enjoying. They're all, most of them, when they came in, they're all bachelors. In fact, some of them got married and all that. So the families, they got the children, they all grew up. And I've seen this town, this beautiful town growing, and everywhere, throughout, wherever I go. And it's become a very familiar name for most of the people for the growth, prosperity, and peacefulness, and the beauty of this town everywhere. I've been Chicago, I've been West Coast and Northeast and all that they've been talking about. I've been very proud about being part of this, and this has become my home after my home. Coming from India about 30 years ago, this has become a beautiful place. And the people and everybody here has welcomed us and became part of this big family here in Cary. And as the families have grown and the children are growing up, we are seeing that the temple is serving the needs of most of the community here. And all the religious activities is taking place on a regular basis as per the age-old rituals and all that. And also it has become a place for all the cultural gatherings and all that. It is serving not only the spiritual and the cultural, also the emotional needs of most of the Hindu population in this area there. And there are close to about 40 to 50,000 families have moved into this area in recent times. And also it's serving, just within about like an hour's drive, there are about 100,000 people are coming to this and going in there. So this has become an epicenter for most of them. And especially the children, some of them are quite here. In fact, they're all so excited to know about what is going on today, and they all came here to share their views. And as the temple is growing, as the requirements are going for the families and the children, and we decided to have a big hall, which is needed actually there. And children are growing up, they need to get married, and there are graduations are happening. There are so many things are happening from the spiritual and as well as the cultural and social needs of it. And there'll be a place where they can probably perform all these activities under the premises of this God and the temple. It becomes a kind of emotional attachment for them because it happens once in a lifetime. And it happens in a very auspicious and a very pious environment there. And it becomes a memorable thing for them. So that's why I decided, and we started working on all those things there. And we wanted to have this with all the kind guidance and all the help what we can get from the members of the council here, and as well as the mayor and the town planning and the engineers, everybody who's trying to guide us from where we are in a small house and where a big temple right now. And we wanted to see that we can realize this beautiful building come up and serve the needs of the community here. And would love to probably see this building. And I can assure you that once this building comes, this is really going to enhance the entrance of our beautiful town of Cary. This is going to be a place where people are going to come all over, not only from here. I can bet many people would come and probably celebrate the memorable events here there. Again, I thank you very much for every member from the council members and as well as the mayor and as well as the planning department, everybody who is able to really help us, to guide us and to be where we are right now. And again, thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Vale Coley. Okay, I don't think he wants to speak. And our last registered speaker is Visvantha Kamath.
And that's all the registered speakers?
Yes, that is.
And if there's anyone in attendance that would like to speak at this time on this public hearing?
No? Yes.
If there are others that would like to speak, please move to the right over here.
Good evening and greetings and salutations to the Honorable Mayor of City of Cary, North Carolina, and the respected council of the office and mayor and the devotees of Sri Manaran. And I'm Lakshana, a freshman at Research Triangle School, and my name means like one who achieves goals. My friends' family call me Lucky, and I'm a proud daughter of immigrant parents Lavanya and Balaji, and I represent the Sri Vaishnava sect of Hinduism, a clan of people who hail from Indian subcontinent and live worldwide. Hinduism is a religion followed by over 1 billion people on this planet, which is 7th of today's world population, and it represents many faiths and beliefs that people hold near and dear for time immemorial. As Sri Vaishnavas, we follow the teachings of many ancestral gurus who led us into the future. A significant name that is revered of Sri Ramanujacharya, our beloved guru and leader who preached the word of God, equality and fraternity among all human beings. He taught us for social responsibility over 1,000 years ago, and we held close to our heart and generations have thrived and devote an unquestionable allegiance to his teachings. Freedom, equality, and liberty comes with the price of Sri Ramanujacharya's life, with most valued once upon time in the world, as many rulers and princely states bid for his head and price highest for his life. 1,000 years ago, the greatest manhunt in human history was life Sri Ramanujacharya. He had followers evaded threats and propagated the word of God, equality and fraternity all among humans. It took generations to tell what it really costs. Today I stand as proud daughter and devotee of Sri Vaishnava and Sri Ramanujacharya to tell his story and esteemed audience in the free world. Sri Ramanujacharya's teachings transcends generations, and his exact words of quality, fraternity echoed on his footsteps of Lincoln Memorial, and Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. expressed dream from his audience unrolled through a speech 58 years ago, not far too from here in National Capital. As a volunteer at SV Temple, I'm super proud and excited for many people to approve this project, and I'm super excited to, for Gurkulam and many students to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? Anyone at all? All right, we'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions or comments.
Go ahead.
I was just going to remind everyone, so this is early in the process, so we hear from the public. The applicant will hear from council members if there's anything to say. It's going to go to an advisory board of citizens, and they're going to review it and see how it matches the Cary Community Plan, which was created by citizens. And then they'll make a recommendation to council, and it'll come back to us in the future. Usually this takes about 4 months. So we're a few months away from decision point. And if you have any questions at any time, you can contact Scott Berry, me, any of the council members, or you can come speak at any council meeting at Public Speaks Out. So just wanted to thank you once again for being here, and Mr. France, please go ahead.
Just one question. The cap on the 55,000 square feet, was that a town recommendation? Was that volunteered, offered by them? Was that, the reason I ask is, I mean, the temple's growing, obviously, and I'm pretty sure in the future it's going to continue to grow. Are we kind of kidding ourselves by putting a cap on it right now, knowing that most likely in the future they're going to come back and ask for that cap to be increased? And is it just, are we kind of adding a layer of bureaucracy that maybe we don't need to do? Or is it, maybe, well, just
Sure.
kind of want your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so the cap was added for, I think, a couple reasons. There was a cap when they came in with the Rajgopuram, basically because that was what they wanted to do at the time. We looked at this, when they wanted to add this site, they sort of have a master plan for what's available right now, and they think that this, offered voluntarily.
Okay.
But they think that that will fit within the master plan. I do think this site is going to come back because there's another piece of property that the town's familiar with that had Nancy Jones' house on it that's zoned R40. So I think as you will see this come back as they do more stuff, but I think for right now this fits their needs.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? All right, this will go to the Planning and Zoning Board, and we'll see it in a few months. Thanks once again.
Thank you.
We'll now move to our second public hearing. It's Act 20 Land Development Ordinance and Community Appearance Manual Amendments. Urban Forestry Manager Katie Rose Levin will introduce the item, and no action is needed this evening. Instead, it will return to us at a future date. Ms. Levin.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Katie Rose Levin, Cary's Urban Forestry Manager. Thank you for the time and support Council has given to Cary's environment and the opportunity to present during this public hearing on Act 20, Solar, Native Plants, and Environmental Policy Updates. Act 20 continues Cary's long-term strategy of updates to Cary's land development ordinances. Like all such updates, Act 20 is based in values, guided by data, and results in these recommended actions for Council to act on. Act 20 consists of 4 items. Item A concerns photovoltaic systems, with the goal of further supporting Cary's growing interest in the installation of private solar systems. Item B contains policy updates, increasing the number of listed benefits that trees and buffers provide to Cary. Item C updates the plant material lists, emphasizing native plants and removing invasive plants to create healthier landscapes. Item D contains technical updates, including adjusting the planting season to respond to climate change and the USDA's planting maps. Together, these 4 items represent another step forward in Cary's leadership on environment. Next, I will briefly go through each item. Item A, photovoltaic systems. The Cary community has a very strong interest in solar installations. In fact, we've already issued 273 residential solar permits this year as of October. To support this growth in solar, Cary participated in the Department of Energy's Sol Smart program. Right now, you're looking at a recent installation of solar in Cary, in fact. So this year, Cary obtained Sol Smart Silver designation by continuing our strategic training of building inspectors on solar installation, as well as creating a webpage full of information for residents interested in installing solar on their homes. This update is the next step forward in the Sol Smart certification program. It clarifies that solar systems can be installed as an accessory use anywhere in Cary. Act 20 further supports Cary's already strong interest in solar, and we hope that residents will continue to be inspired to utilize this green technology for their home. Item B is environmental policy statements. Trees, landscapes, and natural lands provide tangible benefits to Cary citizens, many of which are listed in various sections of the LDO. Over time, research has revealed more benefits than are currently listed, and these benefits are important to the well-being of Cary citizens. Thus, item B adds these new benefits to our list. Benefits which are being added include shade, carbon capture, heat reduction, stormwater reduction, and also pollution abatement. Adding these benefits makes our lists and policies surrounding trees, landscapes, and natural lands more accurate and responsive to current scientific understanding. Item C is plant material list updates. The Land Development Ordinance and the Community Appearance Manual provides regulation and guidance surrounding what kind of plants are installed during development in Cary. Item C provides updates to these regulations by updating the recommended plant materials list to emphasize native plants, creating a new prohibited planting list, which outlines plants that cannot be used to meet planting requirements during development, and moving both lists into the standard specification manual, where it can be more easily found and accessed by developers and members of the community. Many people and groups contributed to these plant material list updates, including environmental groups, plant science groups, tree farms, landscape architects, and landscape installation professionals. Some examples of changes to these lists, including adding native trees like the linden tree to the recommended plant list and moving Bradford pear to the prohibited plant list due to its invasive tendencies. These changes will support Cary in continuing to install beautiful, flourishing landscapes. Item D concerns technical updates. Along with updating the species list based on new scientific understanding, Act 20 also updates the planting season based on new scientific information. As the climate changes, so does the ideal time to plant trees and shrubs. As you can see, between 1990 and 2015, Cary has moved from planting zone 7, which is the yellow, into planting zone 8, which is the orange, a hotter planting zone. It is best to plant trees and shrubs during cool weather, so item D changes the planting season within the LDO to acknowledge that. This concludes the staff presentation on Act 20. At this time, we invite the public to come up and speak, and afterwards I'll be available to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Levin. Now's the time for the public hearing for Act 20 Land Development Ordinance, and I'll call on our town clerk to summarize written comments, call on remote speakers, and those who have signed up.
Okay, we had 7 written comments. Mary Abrams, who is here tonight, she submitted her comments verbally in your packet, submitted her comments, and will also give them verbally. Richard Carroll provided a letter with his comments with multiple improvements and suggestions that should be considered as part of Act 20. Nick Barslow shared support for the upgrade of the LDO in support of more protection of our tree canopy. Mary Collins shared support for Act 20, talked about the benefits of keeping trees, and encouraged keeping Cary truly green through various programs. Richard Wilson provided a detailed email with suggestions, general comments, and questions, and stated that he believes the proposed changes are excellent. Nancy Daly shared support as a Cary citizen and also as the chair of the EAB. She urged council to continue their leadership by continuing to implement recommendations from the Tree Advisory Committee and carbon reduction recommendations. Megan Holler shared support for amendments and encouraged the town to take proactive support in plannings and landscaping practices.
Thank you.
We had no call-in speakers and 1 registered speaker, Mary Abrams.
Good evening, Mayor Weinbrecht and council, friends and neighbors. I'm Mary Abrams, and I'm a Cary resident. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the Wake Audubon Society. Wake Audubon is a local chapter of the National Audubon Society, and our purpose is to protect birds in the places that they and people need today and tomorrow. Thank you first for this opportunity to speak this evening, and thank you to Katie Rose Levin for undertaking this effort to update the plant materials list in the Community Appearance Manual and the standards in the Land Development Ordinance. I think we first met maybe 7 or 8 months ago. So this has been quite a rapid effort and a very good one at that. We're grateful that you asked for and considered our contributions and the input of the Native Plant Society and the Invasive Plant Council when conducting this rewrite. There's always more that can be done, and this is a work in progress, but we support the proposed changes. There is one technical point in the LDO that we'd like to readdress, but I'm confident that we can work through that as we go through the review process. We're especially pleased to see the emphasis on native plants in the revisions. And as I said, this is a vast improvement over the current Community Appearance Manual. 80% of the plants now suggested are native, compared to only 40% in the current manual. This is a clear statement that native plants are important to the town of Cary. We're doubly pleased to see that invasive plants like privet and liriope and the Bradford pear that you saw a moment ago are now expressly prohibited. Plants like these offer little to no value to the food web and displace important native plants. We volunteer with the Native Plant Society out on the Black Creek Greenway. They've got an adopt-a-spot out there. And I can tell you personally that plants like that are overtaking our greenways in the wooded areas around our town. So maybe with these changes, we can at least slow their spread. Native plants are essential to the food web, including birds. They have co-evolved with birds to host the insects, like caterpillars, that birds eat and feed to their babies. So just like human babies, baby birds need that protein that comes from native plants. As plants mature, the fruits, nuts, and seeds that native plants produce also provide balanced nutrition to feed local birds and fuel migratory birds on their intercontinental journey to, from, and through Cary. In reference to the poem that was shared earlier Clearly, birds have found that this is a good place to raise their young as well. So these revised standards will be of great benefit to birds and other wildlife that depend on them for food. And once they're established, native plants will also be easier to maintain and will provide the many benefits to our communities identified in the environmental policy statements in the LDO: cooler temperatures, easier maintenance, flood control, and more. So again, thank you for this opportunity to speak, and thank you for supporting native plants, and we'll be back to see you at the decision point.
Thank you. There are no other registered speakers. At this time, I'll open it up to others who would like to speak at this public hearing. Anyone to speak at the LDO amendment public hearing? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions or comments.
I would like to just say that I think this is a great continuation of the good work that's been done by Katie Rose Levin as she joined us, as well as the EAB when they started this work many years ago. And I love that George McDowell was here. It was a perfect day for him to be here because that actually shows that leadership can come from anywhere. And it truly has. What he's done with the Cary Tree Archive, what staff has done with their leadership, and with what the EAB has done, has really made Cary pivot on where we are and where we were just, 3 short years ago when it came to talking about climate change. So I'm really impressed with what you all have done. I'd love to see the continuation. I'd love to see more solar on town facilities. I think one of the great things government can do is be a role model, right? And so we can showcase what we do to our citizens. I love how you all have found great ways to find ways to add electric vehicle charging stations by getting other people to pay for it. Love that. And I think the My Tree, Our Tree, My Tree capability, and with the addition of the education component, right? We didn't just give away a tree, we taught them how to correctly plant it. And I thought that was worlds away from when we used to just hand a tree out.
Twig.
Right? So I think it's great what you all are doing. I look forward to doing it. I'm actually getting ready to install a rain garden in my front yard. And everybody's gonna walk by and go, what's all that dead stuff in your front yard for a while? Because I want to mitigate the rain that comes off my roof and into the stormwater. And I want to do what I can as well. And I hope that other people will be able to learn like I'm learning. So really well done. And I'm really impressed with everything they've done.
Great. I have one little comment. The only request I have is that in addition to putting the trees, the preferred trees and the non-native trees in the standard specifications and details manual, it'd be really nice if we could have a citizen-friendly web page where all of that is listed, because nobody's going to know to look in a standard specifications manual.
Yeah, no, it's a great point.
Good idea.
Great point.
Other comments? I have one technical question. As solar panels move into solar shingles, is that going to make you come back and ask for further changes, or is all that encompassed in solar?
Oh, that's a good
I
question.
see Scott.
It's all covered, Mayor.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
So for those,
better to get forgiveness.
for those
than
that
permission.
don't know, we were talking to one of the experts in the field at the last
Right.
intercity visit, and she said probably a year or so, we're going to see those solar shingles, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard that, that's going to be really cool, rather than the big old panels. So then we might see it everywhere.
I just want to thank so much the EAB and the others that have worked so hard. And a special thank you to Lori. Lori, I was trying to figure out how to encompass all those points, and I want to thank you so much. I thought you encapsulated and you just highlighted all of those merits, and I want to really thank you for that. It's an exciting time. We are looking at so many things, and we'll go through that when we have our boards and commission reports. But I fully expect that one of the next steps as we continue to grow the tree initiative and we look at ways to get more citizen involvement, I don't think far behind is going to be how we deal with plants, the native plants. I mean, think about it, our park is going to have 65,000 plants. So I think it's just a natural step. And through it all, it's how we can be, as each person in Cary, how can we do it ourselves? So what you're doing is very intriguing to me with your front yard. And so I just wanted to echo that, and thank you so much for what you just shared.
Very good. Any other comments?
I really appreciate the wonderful work the staff have been doing with our citizens, and just thank you so much. I'm excited to see that the gradual increase over the years for residential solar permits, and I would love to, I mean, with the new developments, and we have been asking applicants to, provide more electrical vehicle charging stations, but I'm wondering if there are opportunities to partner with our businesses and see if we can have opportunities to identify areas the town can, in addition to where we can put in for the town facilities, but we can partner with other businesses and maybe put some electrical vehicle charging stations at some commercial space. If we can look into that, that'd be great. Love the tree initiative, and I would love to see more trees being planted, and I know the citizens are working on to increase tree canopy for years, and they're so excited to see the town is joining the efforts. And I would love to see the budget line item that's set aside for the trees. We've been doing this, but I would love to see more. And I wonder if other council members have other comments on this.
Well, there's one other thing I wanted to just ask. Katie Rose, is there any chance that the town could embark on some kind of partnership with the local garden shops to hand out a list at the garden shops? Because I know if I go to a garden shop, I don't know what's native or non-native. I mean, what I'd love is for there to be little tags on the trees that say native, but that seems kind of ambitious. So, I mean, is there a chance that we could partner with them to have them give out a list of native plants so that people have guidance?
Yeah, I think that there's a really good opportunity there. So we actually are part, with the My Tree, Our Tree program, we give away a gift certificate for a bag of soil and a bag of mulch to support people planting correctly, and those are from the local garden shop in Cary. And we actually are shooting stormwater videos to teach people how to do exactly what Lori said she's doing. And part of that is talking about the different native plants that you can use. And those native plants, we partnered with that same garden shop to profile those plants. And so we already have established some really good inroads with them. And I think that's a natural next step and a really great idea.
Okay.
So we'll speak to them about that.
Great. It's good to hear that.
Any other comments? All right, thank you. This will go to our Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation, and we'll see it in a few months. All right, we'll move to our last public hearing, consideration of the Cary Housing Plan. Intergovernmental Affairs Liaison Morgan Manza will introduce this item, and council may take action. Ms. Manza.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So tonight's meeting is the final step for the Cary Housing Plan. Prior to tonight's vote, there will be a public hearing to provide an opportunity for our residents to offer feedback on the Cary Housing Plan. Staff have met with residents, council, and other stakeholders to solicit input. That information, along with Cary-specific data, has helped to shape the strategy and action steps outlined in the Cary Housing Plan. In 2017, Cary approved the Imagine Cary Community Plan. The LIVE chapter outlines broad goals and policies to guide our housing development. The housing plan takes the next step of providing the actions needed to implement the policies of Imagine Cary and meet the housing needs of Cary's residents over the next decade. We live and work in an incredible community, and the moment it clicked for me was one night this summer, watching a movie in the park at Cocoa Booth with my son, Major. The weather was perfect. The crowd was very wonderful and welcoming and diverse and happy, and in that moment, it felt like we were in a movie. I remember sitting there on that lawn, so grateful that I get to raise my son here. And so grateful that he gets to ride his bike down our roads, go to our parks, and meet Mommy's coworkers each week at his swim class. I share this moment because I know I'm not the only person who's had a moment in Cary. a moment of gratitude that this is where you lay your head every night, or a moment of hope that someday you can raise your family here. This housing plan was created with intention to ensure that every resident can enjoy the full benefit of Cary, to create a housing plan that integrates priorities that are important to us and elevate the groups that need additional support to thrive in our community. This document was not created to check a box. This is a comprehensive housing plan to authentically move the needle for all of Cary's residents. In reviewing the Cary Housing Plan, you'll notice a significant shift from our previous housing documents. We've added environmental priorities to ensure that future developments are more energy and resource efficient. We increased the connection between transit and housing to encourage more walkable neighborhoods. Through community meetings, seniors and persons with disabilities were highlighted as populations that need support, so we called out these groups in the plan. We specifically mentioned the need to create more homeownership opportunities so that more residents can create generational wealth in Cary. Finally, we emphasized that housing in Cary is a priority at all income levels. We want every home in Cary to be high quality and connected to the fabric of our community. With that, these are our 3 overarching housing goals. First, continue to be a community of choice by ensuring high quality and diverse new housing development. Second, ensure that all Cary residents can enjoy the full benefit of our high quality of life. And third, pursue regional and nonprofit partnerships to meet Cary's housing needs. Following tonight's meeting, there are 3 next steps that staff recommend we pursue in the next fiscal year. First, evaluate funding and resource allocation for the actions recommended in the Cary Housing Plan. We're continually reviewing our data and best practices for increasing municipal investment in housing, and we look forward to bringing that funding recommendation back to you. Second, support the capacity building of Cary's nonprofit partners to help execute the programs outlined in the Cary Housing Plan. We all know that the nonprofits in Cary are amazing, and it is important that we continue to partner and empower these groups. Third, start to actualize the recommendations related to Cary's planning and zoning approach. The planning and zoning processes are the cornerstone for developing and maintaining housing. We look forward to being in lockstep with planning and development services to accomplish this. So at this time, the public may comment on the Cary Housing Plan. Following the public hearing, staff recommend the approval of the Cary Housing Plan. Staff are available for your comments.
Thank you, Ms. Manza. At this time, I'll call, now's the time for the public hearing for the adoption of the Affordable Housing Plan, and I'll call on our town clerk to summarize written comments, call on remote speakers, and speakers who have registered.
So we have 12 written comments. Robert Blackman gave individual comments about the plan with interest in addressing housing affordability, cost burden to live in Cary, home ownership, and encouraged council to take actions in the plan. Helen Page-Gio shared the plan contains good information and gave her support for creation of a housing fund, use of publicly owned land for housing, and strong collaboration with housing nonprofits and using all means to create affordable housing. Karen Upchurch supports the plan and requested council supports the one-way penny housing initiative. Joette Steger requested council support of the plan and encouraged moving forward with the listed steps. Jackie Ayla provided written comments and will also speak tonight. Lauren Efron and Howard Manning provide a letter that shared the support and gratitude for the plan. The letter was from the Cary Aerial Ministerial Alliance. Sorry, it was a tongue twister. Phil Welch provided written comments and requested to speak tonight. Phil Telfer shared his support for the plan and urged its adoption. Janine Ford provided written comments and will be speaking tonight. Amanda Benson shared her support of affordable housing, support for the penny tax, provided examples about the current state of housing market, emphasizing the inability to build or buy in her neighborhood again, and invited council members to visit lower income areas. Joy Bunch shared that ensuring Cary residents can enjoy the full benefits of Cary's high quality of life should be a priority and provide the example of what's happening on Waldo Street. She shared the tearing down of homes without recycling the material is against Cary's environmental goals. We have one virtual speaker, Howard Manning.
Mr. Manning, are you there?
I am.
Please proceed.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor and council members and all of the assembled audience. I do apologize for not being there in person as was my plan. My name is Howard Manning. Tonight I speak on behalf of the Executive Director of Dorcas Ministries, the oldest nonprofit in Cary, the convener of the Cary Area Ministerial Alliance, which you just heard has thrown our support behind approval of the plan. I also serve as a co-chair of the Western Region Community Advocacy Committee, which is an offshoot of Wake County and Apex, Cary, and Marshville. Also a member of the Affordable Housing Action Group of that task force. I was proud to be a member of the Imagine Cary Task Force. It took us about 2 years to get the Imagine Cary plan approved in 2017. I also served as a member of the Cary Housing Plan Task Force under the leadership of Ms. Matza. I've served as a member of the Wake County Housing Planning Task Force with one of our esteemed council persons. And I'm also a member of the One Wake Coalition that you just heard mentioned. I am certainly here to recommend approval of the housing plan. Based on, number one, the plan is based on data and proven theories. Having seen our council operate in the past would lead to my second point, that I found our council to be predictable when it comes to doing what's best for the community, regardless of personal ideologies or agendas. And thirdly, if you look at the plan, its strategies are realistic and measurable. My closing comments, because I've got quite a few people I think that will be speaking for some of the other organizations that I mentioned I'm affiliated with. But number one, that based on the relationship between the housing plan and the work we did as Imagine Cary, I see the housing plan as kind of being the vehicle to move that Imagine Cary plan to reality. It is my expectations and many of my colleagues that our council will continue their trend of doing what's best for the community by approving this plan, a plan that does not address just a single segment of the population of Cary, but the entire community. Thirdly, not just Cary, but the surrounding area. I would not expect by the housing plan an influx of persons from outside of Cary, but think about how it would complement people already living in Cary. I think I heard somebody mention house burden, mortgage burden, rent burden, which we see a lot of at Dorcas Ministries, people that are hanging on, but just barely hanging on because they are paying more than the recommended amount just to keep a roof over their head. And lastly, I'd like to point out how approval and execution of this plan would allow Cary to retain our role as being a leader in local, state, and national communities. I am currently enrolled in a class that's called Leadership North Carolina, and our last session was about government. It was no surprise, but I'd like to say I was really proud to come away from that government session knowing what a good functional council that we have that looks out for the livelihood and the quality of life for all of our citizens. So I don't want to just take time. I would say that I would strongly recommend that the Cary Town Council tonight approve this excellent housing plan. And thank you all for your time and allowing me to communicate over technology.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manning.
Our first registered speaker is Jackie Allah.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight on the draft housing plan. My name is Jackie Ayala. I am the Advocacy Director at Habitat Wake, Habitat for Humanity of Wake County. As many of you know, Habitat Wake partners with the community and with local families to build safe, affordable homes. Since 1985, we built over 850 homes in Wake and Johnson counties, 51 of which are in Cary. The town has been an exceptional partner to Habitat Wake, helping us build affordable homes by assisting with land development and construction costs. And today we are building 7 more affordable homes on Trimble Avenue and hope that we can continue to work with the town to bring affordable homeownership options to the community. Habitat Wake is encouraged to see that the town is taking steps to address Cary's present and future housing need. Habitat believes that the plan is a great first step to bring affordable housing to Cary, and we urge the council to vote in favor of the plan tonight. Today, there are thousands of people who work to make Cary a great community to live in, but can't afford to live here themselves. These folks are the educators and childcare workers who help our kids learn, food service workers who feed us, and first responders who are there when we need help. Yet they cannot afford to live in the city they serve. But the council has an opportunity to change that by voting yes on the housing plan tonight. The plan outlines several recommendations we are excited to work with you to implement. For example, we strongly support implementing a robust homeownership program that creates opportunities for residents making less than 80% of area median income. We recommend a focus on down payment assistance, which could support residents who have historically been left out of wealth building opportunities. We also enthusiastically support using town-owned land for affordable housing and encourage the town to maximize the impact of this strategy by working with experienced affordable housing developers who can build more affordable units at one time. Finally, we are vigorously in support of a housing fund that sets an ambitious goal for affordable rental units, and we hope that the town will implement this fund in the first year of the plan. Habitat Wake is committed to work with the town to strengthen the implementation of each strategy and to maximize affordability and build more affordable housing in Cary. We ask you to vote yes on the Cary housing plan so that the town, together with housing partners like us, can increase housing opportunities for Cary residents and workers. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Our next registered speaker is Jeanne Ford.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Jean Ford, and I have lived in Cary going on 40 years now. I am speaking on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Wake County as the co-chair of the League's Affordable Housing Committee. The League of Wake County supports the current Cary housing plan. In particular, League members who are Cary residents ask the Cary Town Council to approve the plan. The nationwide housing crunch is evident in Cary, and it especially affects those of modest means, whether they be younger people embarking on their careers, senior citizens in retirement, public service workers such as our teachers, our fire workers, our police officers, or service employees in our many local businesses. The League applauds the Cary Housing Plan for recognizing the importance of tailoring the town's land use and development priorities so that affordable housing is affordable, safe, and convenient housing is within reach for a population that is becoming steadily more diverse in age, income, family type, and lifestyle as Cary matures. If the plan highlights imbalances in the housing supply that can only be expected to grow more severe if not addressed. New construction now is pitched to those who are seeking to buy or rent toward the upper end of the price range. While neighborhoods and developments of this kind are Cary's backbone and contribute greatly to its attractiveness, the Cary Housing Plan makes clear that there needs to be a broader selection of affordable housing types, both owner-occupied and rental. Cary has evolved in recent years with careful planning, enabling it to take full advantage of a good location and a thriving regional economy, and the Cary Housing Plan continues that approach. At the same time, the plan acknowledges that the town's current growth trajectory poses challenges that, if not addressed, could undermine Cary's future overall health as a community. These challenges are attributed to the short supply of housing that meets the needs of all those who wish to call Cary their home. The League is greatly encouraged by the plan's comprehensive recommendations for diversifying the town's housing supply, increased coordination with prospective developers and advocates in pursuit of affordable housing goals, as the plan calls for, is a promising strategy. The plan also is forthright in describing ways that would further public investment. An example is the proposal for loan programs and philanthropic grants targeted at the upkeep of older properties so they remain viable and affordable. Viable and affordable options while guarding against neighborhood decay. Direct public support via a dedicated housing fund that could pool various funding streams is a bold and timely suggestion that the League sees as a keystone in Cary's affordable housing efforts. North Carolina's 7th largest municipality has much to celebrate as it continues to attract new residents and businesses, which will enrich its civic fiber. The Cary Housing Plan, if adopted, will help Cary sustain its livability and promote equity in policies that will shape the town's future. That makes the plan another example of how to meet the sometimes very elusive goal of doing well by doing good. The League of Women Voters of Wake County appreciates the efforts of the town council and staff and in devising creative solutions to address the challenges of affordable housing while ensuring that Cary remains a first-class community for its residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Fleming.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is John Fleming, and I'm a resident of Cary in District C, and I'm appearing here personally tonight and also as chair of the advocacy team at Christ the King Lutheran Church on Walnut Street here in Cary. Our congregation is also a member of One Wake. We are all very interested in the status of affordable housing in Cary, and I want to state my strong support for the Cary Housing Plan. I've read the Cary Housing Plan that you have before you, as well as the Live section of the 2017 Imagine Cary Community Plan. They both lay a solid foundation for a viable, successful living community that will sustain the town for many years. I think the goal and the challenge are well stated very succinctly in the Imagine Cary Plan and restated in the Housing Plan. The town has been very successful at providing high-quality, single-family housing for families in desirable neighborhoods. The challenge moving forward is to provide quality housing options in convenient locations that can serve households seeking a different lifestyle in Cary. One of the many things that impressed me about the Cary Housing Plan was its statement of the housing context in Section 2. Specifically, its analysis of the demographics among Cary residents from Gen Z and millennials to the aging population. On the younger end of the spectrum, the housing plan recognizes the need among young individuals and families for different work-life balance with more of a live first and work second ethic. This is even more evident as we emerge from the pandemic and new experiences around working from home. Not only has working from home been safer and more convenient, but productivity has been seen to increase in many sectors. Continued change to the home and work relationship will require housing and infrastructure to support that new dynamic. At the other, more experienced end of the age spectrum, The housing plan recognizes the need and desire for senior Cary residents to age in place. Maybe not in the same house, which may often be multi-storied with bedrooms on upper floors, but at least in the same community. That may require houses with most amenities on one floor, easily accessible from ground level. This would also make accessible housing available to persons with disabilities. And the plan ensures equitable access to all residents across the town, connecting everyone with public transportation, environmental programs, urban forestry, and open spaces. All of this plays into the affordability of housing. Housing prices and rents only seem to be increasing, and income maybe not so much. I know that federal guidelines define affordable housing for individuals and families as being between 60% and 80% of area median income, but that still seems pretty high. I would like to think that we could set an AMI goal significantly under 60% for substantial areas of housing development. Overall, I like the foundation and goals laid out in the housing plan, stated mostly in Goal 2, such as programs to promote home ownership and repairs to home and rental units. And a critical goal will be to provide incentives to developers to make affordable housing projects viable. Of course, you have all been studying and working in this area for years. You've heard all of this before, and I applaud you for taking these studies to heart to create this good housing plan that will move Cary forward. We can join surrounding communities to increase the availability of affordable housing throughout Wake County. I just want to add my voice in support of the housing plan, and I urge you to vote to approve the Cary housing plan. Thanks for hearing me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leslie Covington. And to help with the next speaker, it's Beth Bordox.
Hello, Mayor and Town Council. My name is Leslie Covington, and I actually have the honor of being the Executive Director of the Caring Place and the co-chair of the Western Wake County Affordable Housing Advocacy Group. We're known as TCP, and TCP is embarking on its 29th year as a Cary-based, born and bred nonprofit. And for all of our 29 years, we have provided our community and its citizens insight into how to assist and empower area homeless working families and their children. Simply put, our work is financial literacy and homelessness prevention, and we help hardworking families fight against the cycle of homelessness. Sharing one example of a fight against homelessness brings me here tonight. This family's example, along with many others, has helped the Caring Place with deciding on not just advocating for our families, but for all of the other hardworking families that are citizens that want to live in Cary, but still cannot afford to call it home. So let me tell you about Cami. Cami is a graduate of the Caring Place. She came to us in 2016 after an abusive relationship and a bitter divorce from her husband. Cami was an impressive and very focused program family. She had previously been a homeowner, but the divorce left her and her 2 young sons, ages 10 and 8, homeless and having to live with her mother. Cami's better budgeting and life skills were great. She never missed a meeting with us. She provided her weekly budget and every one of her receipts. And she faithfully paid all of her bills that would have kept her from independent housing. She also saved nearly 4 times her monthly salary while with us. Cami and her 2 boys were setting themselves up for housing greatness after getting help from TCP. And oh, did I also mention that Cami is actually a middle school teacher right here in Cary, North Carolina. Well, Cami and her son successfully graduated in April 2016 from the Caring Place. They actually found a sweet little apartment that they could afford then right here in Cary. But they promised themselves one thing. They would not hang anything or on any wall until they purchased their own home. Fast forward to 2018. Cami had worked hard and saved lots. She cleared her credit from the divorce. She was excited to buy her first home as a single mother, and she did it through the NACA program. The only problem is the town she shopped in with her boys, the towns that her children went to school in, where they played sports, and where her son was successful in JROTC, and where she taught middle school was too expensive for her to purchase a home. Meeting the promise they made to themselves, Camy and her boys had to leave Cary to make home ownership dreams come true. And this is why I'm here this evening. As an active nonprofit and member of the Western Wake Affordable Housing Advocacy Group, the Caring Place supports this plan, and we are grateful for it. Along with the town's CDBG grant support, our strategic plans at TCP calls for increased financial literacy. Hold on, that's my other piece. Did I drop it? Thank you, Beth. And I was on a roll. Calls for increased program housing and increased support of rental and permanent housing, education, and the professional career dreams of many of the hardworking citizens just like Camy. Because of our growing wait list of 30-plus families, I actually have 5 that are sitting on the floor of our office that have been accepted, but they're waiting because we don't have enough housing yet. We vow to do our part in ensuring that families like Camy's are finally able to stay, prosper in, and enjoy the amenities of this great town. We at the Caring Place are here this evening to say that along with the town, the Western Wake Affordable Housing Advocacy Group, other nonprofits, area churches, area businesses, developers, and supportive citizens, we will work hard to hammer out the finer details needed to implement this plan. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Town Council. Thank you for looking out for the Camys of this town and making them and the mission of the Caring Place as important as the other families and businesses of this great community. Again, thank you for this plan.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Beth Borducks. And then following her will be Phil Welch.
Thank you. I'm Beth Bordeaux. I'm the co-chair of the Affordable Housing Action Group. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Town Council members, for allowing us to speak tonight on this incredibly important issue of housing. The Affordable Housing Action Group supports and advocates for issues related to affordable housing for Cary, Apex, and Morrisville, and within the region and in the context of affordable housing throughout Wake County. I am a nonprofit and human service systems consultant and have served as executive director for a family homeless program and housing program agency, as well as a crisis support agency, and I have 30 years of experience working in human services and working with individuals experiencing crisis. I'm here today on behalf of the Affordable Housing Action Group, encouraging each of you to fully support the Cary Housing Plan, not just in its adoption, but more importantly, with focused and determined implementation strategy. The Affordable Housing Action Group started in 2017. Through community listening sessions, we developed 4 core pathways for our work. Development is the first pathway. We literally want to see more units of affordable housing on the ground. Preservation is the second. To be a community that repairs existing affordable housing and preserves that housing stock for affordability. Housing for those who are the most vulnerable is the third, the lowest income brackets. Considering and highlighting the needs of those experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, or for those at 30% or less of the area median income. And advocacy, which is building the capacity to respond and support our towns in their efforts to move the needle on the above 3 items. Over 3.5 years, the Affordable Housing Action Group has met regularly with towns' planning staff, including the town of Cary, as well as nonprofit citizens and leaders in the Western region to share information and strengthen our collective efforts along these pathways. Some of the advantages of meeting collectively is the sharing that happens across staff, across the different municipalities, as they learn things in one municipality and then share it with another. For example, the Healthy Homes Cary program. Apex recently adopted a similar program based on that model. Apex has created a 1.5 cent tax to go towards affordable housing, and we're encouraging all of the other municipalities in the region to do something similar. And all 3 towns in our region have or are in process of adopting housing plans that address affordability. I'd like to bring your attention to a few key items from the plan that highlight some of the most critical issues that we would emphasize from the Affordable Housing Action Group. One is the overall rental stock is aging. Preserving that quality of those units while also preserving their affordability is crucial to maintain affordable rental options in Cary. Aging owner-occupied housing in Cary also requires attention and investment in maintenance to preserve its existing affordable housing. It's necessary that affordable rental units have access to transit and amenities, and 51% of the low and moderate income households in Cary are housing cost burdened, meaning they're paying more than 30% of their income for housing, including those that make up to $75,000 a year. There has been significant increase in the elderly Cary residents living on low and fixed incomes, and this number will continue to grow. I'd also like to highlight a few key action steps from the plan that most align with our concerns of supporting those who are most vulnerable. Piloting the low-interest loan program for landlords to make repairs. The Healthy Homes program only supports those in owned property, not rental property. May I add that a stipulation for that around keeping that property affordable. Evaluating programs to relieve seniors of housing cost burden and enable them to age in place. Those are both around preservation. Explore developer incentives to support affordability, and create a guide on how to develop and support and encourage the development of housing for persons with disabilities, again, addressing the most vulnerable. Aligning rezoning and development. My time is running out. There's a lot of great stuff in this plan, y'all. Let's roll.
If you leave it with our clerk, she'll make sure we get a copy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Phil Welch. And then following Mr. Welch is Stephen Walker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Phil Welch, and I live at 1471 Big Leaf Loop in Apex. I served, this is a little bit in the way. I served on the steering committee for Apex's first affordable housing plan last year. I was recently appointed to Apex's first housing advisory board. I will be chairing that board. I also volunteer on the Western Region Affordable Housing Action Group, which you've heard about a couple times before. And I chair their advocacy team. The Western Region includes Cary, Apex, and Morrisville. I thank you for the opportunity to comment on Cary's housing plan. I support the approval of the plan and offer help from the advocacy team in implementing the actions proposed. I want to thank the town of Cary's professional staff, especially Morgan Mansa, for providing details on the town's Healthy Homes Cary program to the Apex town planners. Beth just mentioned that. As a result, Apex was able to implement a similar program last year for owner-occupied housing rehabilitation. I'm sure there are many other examples of cooperation between our towns. Turning to the Cary housing plan, I have a couple of overall comments. The housing context very effectively presents the need for more housing choices in the town of Cary. especially for households earning less than $75,000 annually. This includes more choices of both owner and renter-occupied homes. The market pressures section on pages 16 to 21 lays out the case for devoting attention and resources to the homes which many lower-income households, including seniors, millennials, Gen Zs, and essential service workers, need in order to have a choice of living in the town of Cary. The strategic plan provides an excellent initial framework for expanding the 3 plan goals into actions and metrics of success or evaluation criteria. After the plan is approved, I look forward to seeing the priorities, timeframes, numerical targets, and funding estimates in the implementation phase. This would make measuring the progress made each year easier to quantify and compare to the estimated gaps in the housing market. It would also provide guidelines to housing staff and funding estimates for budgeting purposes. In reviewing the Cary Housing Plan, I saw common threads between the proposed actions there and the recommendations in the Apex Affordable Housing Plan. In addition to the obvious connections between the 2 owner-occupied housing rehab programs, I saw the following similar initiatives in both plans: offering developer incentives to support affordability, developing home ownership programs to fill housing market gaps, supporting transit-oriented development and policies, supporting development of housing that is affordable on town-owned land, dedicating funding for new housing that's affordable through a housing fund, and aligning rezoning and development review processes to support housing priorities. I think collaboration between the town's professional staffs on both similar and different programs could be very beneficial to both towns for the following reasons. Number one, it would provide consistent incentives for area stakeholders, for example, developers and social service agencies, so that between the 2 towns, there would be level playing fields for these organizations. Number 2, testing of innovative features in similar programs could provide valuable information on ways to improve a program in an adjacent town. Number 3, intelligence gathered on benefits and costs of different programs in one town could point to potential new programs in the other town. Finally, I want to emphasize again that our housing advocacy team stands ready to support proposed affordable housing developments in Wake County's western region, including Cary as the largest municipality in the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Stephen Walker, and then followed by Wesley Newsom.
Mayor and Council, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Stephen Walker. I'm not speaking on behalf of any of these wonderful organizations. I'm speaking as one of your neighbors and one of your citizens. I moved here in '84, loved this town with all my heart. But obviously we've seen a lot of changes in that time. In 1987, my wife and I bought the house on the corner of Park and Urban. And if you'll drive through my neighborhood, you'll see the problem. Lot after lot has been raised, massive houses come up. There's a house just down the road from us, and it's honestly, the houses next to it just live in their shadow. We need balance. We need to understand that a healthy town is diverse, that the people who live here and work here, there are people here that own businesses. I know you want to have your employees be able to live here. A fireman lives behind me, and they were just telling me tonight that most of the firemen he knows can't afford to own a home in Cary. That's a tragedy. Before I moved here, I lived in a town in Florida that took the other path, and they ignored affordable housing. And back 3 decades ago, they were still having to shuttle people in to do the work from neighborhoods 30, 40 minutes away. We would love to have that avoided here. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to thanking you in the future for doing the right thing to keep Cary healthy and balanced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Our last registered speaker is Wesley Newsom.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor, and fellow residents of Cary, and importantly tonight, town staff. My name is Wesley Spears Newsom. I'm a homeowner in Cary, District C, and I'm one of the pastors at Greenwood Forest Baptist Church on the corner of Maynard and Kildare Farm Roads. Our church is one of the dues-paying congregations of One Wake, a broad-based, nonpartisan community organization here in Cary and around Wake County. In a way of regular order, preserving regular order, if our members could raise their signs and show council that they're here. Thank you. We also frequently host the Caring Place in our building prior to the pandemic, when things had to go virtual every week for their meetings with their families, and our partners with them in helping people achieve housing stability here in Cary. And I wanted to speak tonight in support of the Cary Housing Plan developed by the hard work of our town staff. Reading the report, it was apparent how much diligence and expertise and labor were put into this plan. I support its aims wholeheartedly, and I'm ecstatic that the town has been working on it, and that we have people who work for our town who care about shepherding Cary into an inclusive future for all of our residents. So thank you, Morgan, for all your work on the plan and for your whole team. And instead of repeating other things that you've already heard tonight about housing, I wanted to share a little bit of my own story of housing in Cary. I've lived here for almost 5 years now, as long as I've worked at Greenwood Forest. When my wife and I first moved here, we both had middle-class salaries, and we were hoping to buy our first home in Cary. We were not able to. There were no options for us to buy. So we rented for years, and it took until a dear member of our family died, and for us to receive some money from life insurance to buy a house. And we believe somebody shouldn't have to die for people to be able to afford a house in Cary. Because let me emphasize, we made solidly middle-class salaries. We had no outstanding large debts, no car payments, no student loans. We'd been personally responsible, but we'd not been able to afford housing in Cary. And we were able to buy a house right before the pandemic. And looking at what how the housing market has turned since then, we would not, even with the money we'd received, be able to afford the house we live in now if we were trying to buy a house today in 2021. And while that's certainly good for us on an individual level, we could sell the house for more money than we bought it, I don't believe that's actually good for Cary. We need more supply for more people, and we need that supply for all demographics in Cary. And we need to work on that problem now and not later. As a pastor, I field calls every week for people looking for assistance with rent, and all of my colleagues do as well. The limited supply of housing across the country, but in especially wonderful, rapidly growing places like Cary, has sent rents skyrocketing, trapping people in cycles of trying to make month-to-month rents, trapping people out of home ownership and the only ability to build generational wealth in this country. So let's keep the doors open and the lights on for teachers, for our nurses, for our first responders, our service workers, and if I can include myself, our pastors. We all make Cary a wonderful place to live, and we all deserve to thrive here. And I think this housing plan is a wonderful framework to help make that a reality, and I hope that council supports it, and will support any one of you who do. The only gap in this plan, as I see it, is the next step that Ms. Mansa identified, is the question of funding. As I see it, there's a lack of a dedicated revenue stream here, and we believe that One Wake has put forward a proposal that was developed by the members of our organization, not by any outside think tanks. But we believe that a penny for housing plan like the one employed in Apex recently, like the one that has existed in Chapel Hill, would greatly benefit our town in Cary. I love this plan, and I hope we can muster the financial strength to make it a reality. So thank you for your time, and thank you again, town staff, for your amazing work on this plan. We are lucky to have you.
Thank you. And before there are no other registered speakers, right?
Correct.
Before we invite other speakers up, I want to thank the ones that have spoke so far, but to have an efficient meeting, I want to remind, let's not repeat, and let's not read what's in the plan. We've read it. So having said that, I would like to invite other speakers up at this time who have not registered to speak on the housing plan. Any other speakers? There's a familiar face.
Yeah, it's me.
Reverend Tyner, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor. And
Could you move to your left so everybody that's not here can hear you?
That way.
The microphone.
There you go. Perfect.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Town Council, I'm back. I want to say to you all, thank you for all that you've done for White Oak Foundation. I come tonight, and this will be the shortest sermon I've ever given. I come tonight to tell you that certainly I know you will approve this plan. The next step is the execution of this plan. I come tonight to tell you that we have a plan at White Oak Foundation. I can pick up the permits tomorrow for 30 affordable houses. Everything is ready. All I got to do is bring $30,000. I can pick up the plan. But I have a problem. The problem is I'm trying to keep it affordable. And it's hard to keep it affordable in Cary. The cost of the land and the land we have, then the cost of infrastructure, the cost of building, just make it just about impossible. So I'm on the list just waiting for Cary to say, we're going to help you do this program, and we'll be ready for 30 affordable houses being placed on the ground. I beg of you, let's execute the plan. And executing the plan means let's bring something to the table to help us. No developers can do any affordable houses in Cary with this cost. Here's a living example. Got the land, but can't do the building to keep it affordable. I can do it at market price. We can easily. And they'll be sold in 5 days. 5 days, that's all. That's the realtors already come to me. They're knocking at the door. 5 days. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? All right, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and open it to council members for questions, comments.
You know, I want to talk.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, first, I'd like to thank everybody who came here today and gave of your time, your talents, your energy, your caring and engaging comments around the topic of affordable housing. The work for affordable housing in Cary specifically started, and has been going on for a long time, but I think the real focus work started in 2015 when Cary was asked to participate in the Wake County Affordable Housing Task Force with the plan that came out in 2017. And from that, we then engaged with HRNA, who was the one who did that plan, to do our plan. They're the same group that did the Wake County plan with all of us and then brought it to Cary. So I think that shows a great deal of commitment and continuity and honestly, heart to make affordable housing a reality here. For those of you who know me, you know that affordable housing is very important to me. I grew up with a single mother in sustainable housing. And we didn't have generational wealth until we had a home. And we didn't even have a safe place to stay without the subsidy that we received for the rent. So I think that talking about affordable housing as was brought up by the Carrying Place, as a story, that was fantastic, wherever you are. I can't see out there. There you are. I think that the story matters, right? Who are we if we can't help those of us, all of us in the community? I think another thing that I like to share with my council member friends is that we all know, and some of us have purchased homes lately, and some of us have sold homes lately, that it is very difficult to afford a home here. The average median price right now, today, is over $430,000 to buy a home. That's difficult for so many families. Rent is almost inconceivably high. And so what we really have to do, I believe, is talk about housing affordability, share it and talk about it, and remove the stigma associated with it. Because I just think our community needs to understand it's not sustainable to have more than 30% of household income going to housing. You know, a modest 2-bedroom apartment right now in fair market value is over $1,200. For that rent to be affordable, the family would need to make almost $50,000 a year. You know, the entry price for salary for a teacher in Wake County is $35,000 a year. Right, so that means a lot of the people who work, live, and support us can't afford to even have an apartment in Cary. So I really want to thank staff, thank our citizens for engaging. Great work, Morgan, great work by our contractors, and most importantly, the support of council to make this plan a reality. This looks like Cary. This plan looks like Cary. It's got measurable outcomes. It's got goals and objectives. It's not just a plan that was created in some other community. It was created with our goals and objectives in mind. So I just wanted to say how very proud I am of all the work that's been done, and especially proud that so many citizens came to speak in favor of it.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. It was well said. I really want to thank everybody that's been a part of this. Morgan, you and your staff, Dana, and just Team Cary is amazing, but also the community partners that have been a part of this as well. And, you know, everybody coming together and working together. It's just been awesome to see it. You know, one thing I always say is government can't do everything by itself, and nor should we. It takes a community and everyone coming together to do great things, and we see that time and time again in this town just because of how amazing the community is, how amazing our staff is. And it's just, I love what Morgan said when you started off your presentation. This plan was not created to check a box.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And it's not. And I know you are so passionate about this, and I know that statement was real for you, you know. For those of you that don't know Morgan, I would encourage you to get to know her. She is amazing, and she is doing amazing work already. And we are just so blessed to have you here and leading this initiative. So thank you for that. I kind of chuckled a little bit, just everybody here telling us to vote for the plan, vote for the plan. We wouldn't even be talking about the plan unless we had directed our staff to create the plan. Right. You know, this is something we want to fix. We recognize the problem. We recognize there's issue in our community, and we want to do something about it. I hear the proposals for dedicated funding stream. I will just caution you on that, because I know we're actually already spending more in this town than we would if we did the one penny. So just be careful with that. But we are going to put our money where our mouth is on this, I promise you. Every single one of us is committed to dealing with this. Another thing I heard is we need more housing supply. Absolutely, we surely do. But every time somebody wants to bring more supply to this town, people are sitting in the seats just like you telling us to vote no. They don't want the development. They don't want to see those trees go away. Oh, I've enjoyed looking at them for 15 years in my backyard. Please, you know. So there needs to be that community conversation. We need you helping to talk to your neighbors, talk to people, and all of us come together to understand that without the additional supply, prices are going to continue to skyrocket, because Cary is one of the greatest places in America to live. Everybody wants to come here. People that are here don't want to leave. We don't want them to leave. And so with that comes the demand. So we need additional supply. And so we need to have more conversation and get people to understand that this problem is only going to get worse unless we allow additional housing in this town. Thank you to Habitat. We love partnering with you. I think everybody up here remembers the Trimble Avenue. And I think what you saw, and for those of you that didn't witness that, that wasn't an easy decision or a partnership with a Habitat. There were those in the community that didn't want affordable housing in their neighborhood, and a lot of them showed up here and kept telling us to vote no. But this council had the political will to do the right thing and support that. And I think you're going to see this council have the political will to do the right thing and support this plan. So thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for caring about this. We all do. We're all going to work together, and we're going to do everything we can to solve it.
Well said. Yeah. Other comments?
Well,
Let me speak before you, because you're always so eloquent. You like to wrap things up. So let me just say my clumsy remarks, and then you finish up. You can say whatever you want to say. I would just want to kind of piggyback what Don said. We'll do everything we can, but we do have to also be realistic that this is a force that is great. And one thing I would slightly disagree with you, Don, is even if we increase our supply, this is going to be a battle that is going to get harder and harder to fight.
Totally agree.
So this is really rough. I mean, it is a fantastic place to live. And we have, I think, less than 14% of our land mass left for development, which means we don't have a lot of room to put in.
That's why you wanted to go first.
No, because you always wrap things up beautifully. You just said you're right. But anyway, I just think that we need to be very realistic. For me, one component that I love about this plan is its comments about transit. And we have to get behind transit in our community. So many people, I serve on our transit board, so many people tell us, well, transit's not viable. I look at a bus and it's empty when it goes by. Our problem is that our bus frequencies are not frequent enough, and they are not as close to the homes as they need to be. And we've got to get behind transit so that we can move people around, and people who are transit dependent can get to their jobs and get home or get to classes, whatever they're trying to do. And I'm glad that this is part of the component, because I think successful regions have successful transit. So I'm just glad about that. And I'm sorry I trumped you, but I really do think that you always wrap things up.
Don't use that
nicely.
word. Trump. Look, I'm not going to repeat what's been said. I think to the community out there and those listening, as Don said, we asked for this program. We are doing so many things, and I think what makes this program good is once you put it all together, put it in one place, and you have something that's measurable. This is not an easy task, and I don't want to weave in my pet peeves, but when we get into, I was at 2 meetings today. I was in Old Cary, and I was talking to people about how they felt not considered as part of Cary anymore because they see all the shiny new stuff. And there were some issues in their neighborhood, and we had walked the neighborhood and so forth. And then I was over in one of the areas over by Buck Jones and talking to some people there. And their cry was for safety, things of that nature. So I think it is great that we have finally come together and that we have a plan. The plan is like the next step. The first step was we were doing a lot of these things, but maybe not as focused as we should be. And I think this finally puts it together. And I think one of the things that you all can appreciate is many of us up here And also, as Lori talked about her personal situation, you know, I came from a very poor area, a blue-collar area that both my parents had 2 jobs just so we could meet the rent. So I was at a meeting the other day with Habitat folks, and I was talking to, I forget her last name, but Dr. Rose, I like to call her from, and she was just wonderful. She said, you just don't understand, Jack, how many people every month have this stress about making ends meet. And I said, yeah, I do understand. I do. I've lived that as a little kid. I looked at as the town came in and upgraded our quality of life with improved water or sewer, and we couldn't then pay the bills. And we didn't get evicted, but we had to meet that challenge of, once again, another job. So I think, you know, it sounds corny to say we feel your pain. We know the pain, and we know it's going to be complex, and we know the challenge is going to be even harder in Cary because we are so successful. We're running out of land. I think part of the creativity that we're going to look at as we work with all of these community organizations that are now rallying with us to find these solutions, I think we're going to have to look at those areas that we're redeveloping, you know, revitalizing, and we have to look at how do we mix this housing stock. But, you know, that doesn't get built overnight. And, you know, all we can do is commit to having the plan, and as we heard from many of the speakers, execute. And execute may not mean that in 12 months' time, we now have solved the problem for hundreds and hundreds of people that need help. But it means that we're going to be moving in the same direction. And I love the feedback from the citizen who said, let's work together with other communities. I like the fact that we have neighbors doing creative things too. Some of them may not work for us, but as long as we continue to share, that's what we're doing with our environment right now. We're sharing our ideas with Apex and others in the community. I think as we step forward with this program, a part of that is going to be increased involvement with all of you out there that have spoke tonight for your various organizations, but it's also continuing to grow that relationship with our staffs and others, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to go forward. And as Jennifer said, we also have the issue of transportation and safety. Both of those cost a lot of money. What good is having affordable housing if you have to fear for your life at a bus stop? Safety is one of the things that separates Cary from a lot of our communities and a lot of our neighboring communities. Safety. We don't have to fear being at a bus stop. We don't have to fear looking over our shoulder. Doesn't mean we don't have problems. But as we pursue these efforts on affordable housing and trying to improve that goal for those workers so they can live here, we also have to keep in mind that part of that dollar investment goes to helping their transportation needs and those safety needs. So we're all here. What we've realized tonight, and I think all of you out there understand, darn, this is one complex problem. And we didn't get here overnight. I don't think we'll solve it overnight, but I think you're hearing from each of us in our own way that as a team, as you said, Don, the political will, I think you're hearing that tonight, that this is a good start for us, and we'll be able to demonstrate to you that we're going to be moving forward in a very focused and compassionate and caring manner. So those are my thoughts.
Now I'm the one who speaks after Jack. Great work, great plan, and you just heard so many citizens, and you heard from the council that we love the plan. We look forward to supporting the plan. And I was really touched by the stories that the citizens have been sharing with us, that you currently own home, but you are speaking on behalf of those who cannot move into Cary and who look forward to moving into Cary and look forward to the solutions and look forward to the partnership between the town and various organizations. And I'm really excited that what's to come. I see this plan as a call for action right? Now we have a plan. Let's figure out the ways, the creative solutions Jack talked about, how we can get there. And you've heard from all of us, our commitment is real, and we will put, our actions, and the citizen will see it.
Well, I often start my remarks by saying my colleagues have said it all. Tonight, I think I can start my remarks by saying our speakers have said it all.
Yeah.
And I really thank you all for coming out and for offering your suggestions. And of course, thank you, Morgan. I think the plan is obviously a good one. It reflects the Imagine Cary goals, I think, very well when you really compare the two. It takes environment and integrates environment and transit into it, highlights seniors, first-time homeowners, persons with disabilities. It was based on citizen input and good, cold, hard data input as well. And I really think it's a great framework for us as we move forward. And I'm ready to stop talking and start working.
Well, I'm the only one that hasn't said anything. Should I say anything? I'll tell you what, I'll just do a history moment, still a page from you. So I grew up in Cary as a small child with a single alcoholic parent. And I can tell you, I remember doing without food. And so I would have loved to have had this when I was a child. So seeing this, Cary has come a long way. So thank you so much for all that you've done and have transformed us as we move forward. That's all I'm going to say, but I would love to hear a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Cary Housing Plan.
There's a motion.
Second.
And second, and a third, and a fourth.
Fourth, fifth.
Further discussion? All in favor of the plan, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank
Great
you.
work, great work.
And thanks to all those who came to speak. All right, and to listen. And we'll now move to our discussion items. Our first discussion item is funding appropriations for the Cary Tennis Park improvements. Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Director Doug McRaney will present this item for council action. Mr. McRaney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. And I'm here tonight to discuss funding appropriations for the Cary Tennis Park. The town has hosted the Atlantic Tire Championships since 2015. It has become a very, very well-respected tournament, professional men's tournament. And in the process of hosting it over the last few years, and particularly this past year, there have been discussions between USTA officials, Mayor, with you, and also with staff. And those discussions included basically suggestions that, given how well-run the tournament is, with a few more improvements, there might be a chance for us to bring in a higher quality tournament that would then benefit the community further. Not that you don't know this, but the Cary Tennis Park is probably one of the best managed, most unique public tennis facilities in the country. It provides a range of services that go from community recreation to an academy program, one of the best in the country, and then at the same time is able to balance off all that with hosting 40 tournaments a year. And of those 40, staff consider 15 of those to be large tournaments. And large tournaments last during the week, or they're just very, very important, like the Atlantic Tire Championship in terms of importance. The result of those 40 tournaments is that annually the Cary Tennis Park brings in $1.5 to $2 million annually, and the ACC Championships, of which you have the photo here in front of you, along with Atlantic Tire Championships, account for about 20% of that economic impact. Okay, the ATP Tour. So the Atlantic Tire Championship is part of the ATP Tour. The ATP Tour is USTA's organizational tour as a way to bring in and provide opportunities for a complete range of professional tennis. Basically, they rate it by numbers. It has a numeric value, and it goes from essentially an ATP 50 all the way up to an ATP 1000, which account for the Grand Slam French Open, US Open, Australian, and
Wimbledon?
thank you. I just wanted to see if council knew that. That's really not funny, but okay. And Wimbledon. Now I got off that. The Atlantic Tire Championship is rated as an ATP 80. The next step up from that is an ATP 250. And essentially the discussions that we've had with the USTA is there's a good chance with making some of these changes, we can bump up to an ATP 250. And by doing that, we get a much higher ranked player. And we expect then even more crowds showing up to attend and watch the tournament. Okay, so let's talk about some of these improvements. First one is court lighting. The only court that currently has professional lighting is the stadium court. All the other courts have recreational or lower lighting. And the difference is there's 5 times higher brightness with the professional lighting, of which here is, this is a photo of the stadium lighting. And so what we're requesting is funding in the amount of $375,000 for 2 additional courts. And between the stadium court and the 2 courts, that is sufficient then for the, again, the Atlantic Championship Tire Tournament. Second improvement will be expansion of the clubhouse, long overdue. But in particular, what we need is expansion for to support the tournament. This would be fitness room, players lounge, space for tournament management, and of course, we still need additional space for staff alone. But all of this is what we need: conditioned space. And what we're proposing is we're requesting $200,000 to do essentially conceptual studies, which will define square footage, give us some floor plans, and essentially we would be able to come back to council with a cost estimate. It won't cover design. We'll still have to come back and budget for that. And of course, obviously, this won't cover the cost of the expansion, but this will get our foot in the door and give council some idea what the expansion will cost. Again, that's $200,000. And a little bit late after the staff report was submitted was a decision for us to also include a request, include shade structures. And we're doing this now because even after the staff report was submitted, we realized that to come in with some of the construction, with some of the lighting, other things we want to do, it'd be very disruptive after the fact. And what this is, a shade structure along the western side. You see the photo before you of the stadium court, and again, shades on the other 2 structures. And so essentially, the 3 courts that are used for the Atlantic Tire Championships would have sufficient shade for the spectators. So staff recommendation is that council appropriate $775,000 of unrestricted general capital reserve fund balance to a new capital project for the purpose you see before you with the 3 different areas of projects. And I will answer any questions that you might have.
Well, I'll start off saying I'm the guilty one that's been pushing a lot of this. Just so you know, the Atlantic Tire Championship won 2 awards already that will be presented in January, one with the state and one with the Southern Tennis Association. So it's already getting a lot of recognition. And I anticipate the economic benefit going up from 1.5 to 2 million to much more. And our community so far has been focused on growing our amateur sports venues. And gosh, we used to collectively make like 8 to 10 million in economic benefit. I don't know if it's much more than that now.
It's 23 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
23 million pre-COVID.
And we really want to continue to move forward with all of our venues. And I think this is the very next step. I personally had a conversation with the USTA guy, and all the things Doug named is what he said we needed. However, the things we can do immediately puts us up a notch. So these things right here will put us up a notch. And this tournament is so attractive to the USTA that we're at the top of the list. So if we move up a notch and we're at the top of the list, our likelihood of getting something better is pretty strong.
Yeah, and Mayor, let me just, I apologize, I just want to add, one thing, that in the year of 2020, leading this year, we've actually hosted the 3 ATP tournaments, and we were the first facility, first community to host an ATP tournament after COVID. And I personally thank council, Mayor, you, and Sean, because without hesitation, we basically said, yes, we'll do this. And we did that to work with USTA because they very much wanted to show to the players and to the spectators we can get back and normal and running again. So we're high on their list.
Yeah, and to add to that, we did 2, 3 months apart?
Yes,
And they asked us to do more.
yes.
More than 2 in 3 months, and that's just insane. We can't possibly do that. But I think this is a great next step. I know I've contacted each of you individually and gave you estimates of the shade structure, and my estimate I did not realize was pre-pandemic, so of course costs have gone up greatly since then. So I apologize for that. I didn't know that until I was corrected. So anyway, I strongly support this, and I would encourage my colleagues, whether you like tennis, play tennis, watch tennis, it's growing a venue, and I think it's great for our town. So.
Well, I hear tennis because I live so close to the park. I can hear
bet
tennis
you do.
balls bopping back and
That's
forth.
probably pickleball you hear.
I don't know what I hear, but I hear it. It doesn't matter. It's a nice mellow sound. But anyway, I'm going to support this. I do have one question. Is there an urgency to it? Is that why we're not getting this through a typical budget cycle?
I should have made the point that by appropriating the funding now, we can get in both the lights and the shade structures by next year's tournament.
Okay.
And so, I hate to jump in. So last year, we got 2 last year, right? Or was that the
2
year
tournaments?
before? Yeah.
Yeah, in
And
July.
one of them was in the summer that was very popular. And the reason we got that was because of COVID.
Yes.
We have a strong possibility of getting that on a permanent basis if we do these other things. And so that's one of the reasons for the urgency. If you have these things in place, now you can say, hey, we've got everything but the other stuff, and we're doing concept drawings and all that stuff.
Right.
Okay.
I get the court lighting, no problem. Totally get the shade structures. I'm kind of surprised we're not doing more there. What I don't get is the $200,000 to figure out how much the expansion is gonna cost.
Well, we don't have a design.
I understand that.
Okay.
But for an existing building, it's really gonna cost $200,000 to figure out how much it's gonna cost to make it bigger?
An additional building, maybe.
Yeah,
Is that like architecture? What is
yeah,
that?
no, it is not design, it's conceptual planning. It's basically, we will develop, and Don, if we can do it for less than 200, we're trying to be conservative with the way costs are now. This is basically a master plan for the expansion, okay?
So can I throw in stuff?
Everybody tried to convince me on that one.
No, all right, so what they want is dedicated space for players, for the USTA staff.
I get that.
All right, that's for a tournament. We don't build a thing for one thing a year. We want it to be used year-round. How can we make this part of the community? Can we make it a part of like a community center concept? Can we have yoga classes in there? Can we do stretching classes? Can we do other stuff? Is there something we can design that meets all of the things we want to do? I think that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And that's why it may be part of an expansion, it may be a building, and Doug's like, yeah, whatever.
No. For the downtown park, you approved a master plan.
Yeah,
Okay, and it had cost to it?
I've approved lots of master plans.
Well, all right. But then it needed to be designed, and that's what basically, and,
All right, I'm just,
okay.
Do it for less. I'll give you 200,000, but do it for a lot less.
199.
Do 199? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. I understand the different levels of tournaments. So we try to get to ATP Tour 250, right? And so what's the discrepancy between 250 to ATP
So-
500, or we won't get there. I just want us to figure out a plan if we eventually want to move up, but, you know, we'll see, you know, what's the potential, and are we even thinking that far, or are we just so focused on the next level?
So we're limited on what we can do now. If you are in the top 50 or 100, you cannot play in our tournament, right? Is it 50 or 100?
I actually,
Something like that.
I'm not sure about that.
There's a level or a ceiling, and our next level will bump that higher. And if we get the right week, we can get them in between a big tournament here and a big tournament there, and these top-ranked players have nowhere else to go, and they're trying to get ready for the U.S. Open. Okay, I'll go to Cary. I hear that's a good place to go. Now you might get top 10 play. Well, that's a reach. But you might get some well-known players that you see on TV all the time. That'll draw the crowds. That'll draw the support from business communities and everybody else.
And it brings notoriety, further notoriety to Cary.
Yes.
Okay, but I think Ya's question is.
Oh, sorry.
You're putting in lighting structures and a potential expansion, and you're going to get us to 250. What would it take? What kind of capital
Get to
investment
500.
does it take to get to the next level, and is that on the horizon someday?
Yeah.
Is this an incremental step, or is this it? This is the best we can be?
From what I understand, and I'm not an expert, there is potential to go higher, but now you have to do tension courts, you have to do electronic scoreboards, you have to do a lot of other things to get even higher. So that's a big
And have
deal.
additional seating
Yes.
for the.
This is the best value for what we can
Yes.
get.
Okay.
Yes.
The level we're going at
Yes.
for that breakdown.
And it's similar to USA Baseball, where we host D2 baseball, not D1, which is at Omaha. And this will still be a huge step for us to host an ATP 250.
Okay.
No other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation of $775,000
Maximum.
maximum.
Second.
Discussion.
I just want to say, I'm with Don. I don't know. I've seen so many master plans for like parks and stuff that's way less than 200. I mean, I'm going to support it, but I'm definitely interested why a plan for a plan costs 200,000, but I trust staff and, but I'm
Doug, a lot of
feeling it.
eyes are looking on
Finally,
you.
somebody agrees
I'm
with me.
feeling it too. I get it, because I've seen so many less, but I trust staff and I
Don's
love
like, I
it to
can
come
figure
in
this
at
out
100.
tomorrow afternoon. Come by my shop and I'll do it for
Yeah.
you.
Nah, I can't do buildings. I fix a lot of stuff, though, but not buildings.
Any other comments? All in favor?
I'm trusting you, Doug.
I don't,
I'm trusting you.
appreciate that.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Council.
We now move to our last discussion item, adoption of new council district boundaries map. And Town Attorney Lisa Glover will present the item, and council may take action.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Tonight, you're considering adoption of a new electoral district map. And this has been a long process so far. As you know, in January, we hired an independent team to help us with redistricting. And in March, you established guiding principles to lead the process. In June, before census data was released, you adopted new districts in anticipation of an October election. However, a few days later, Senate Bill 722 was enacted, and that moved Cary's election to March of 2022 and gave us time to look at census data when it came out in August. Our consultant team reviewed the data and determined that the districts adopted in June did need some tweaking. So they began drafting new map options using the map that you adopted in June as the base. You reviewed 2 map options in September and asked staff to bring both options forward to a public hearing. Staff also began a public education campaign at that time, including social media alerts, inclusion in town email messages, and an updated website. The public hearing was held at your last meeting in October. 3 citizens submitted written comments that were presented to you at that meeting, and no additional comments have been received since that hearing occurred. So as we discussed in October, the 2 options are identical in their treatments of districts A and D. The only difference between the two options is on the edges of Districts B and C, outlined here in the green and the orange. Both options 1 and 2 are legally compliant and would ensure Cary's districts meet the constitutional principle of one person, one vote. After tonight's vote, a new map would be forwarded to the local boards of elections. Candidate filing would begin on December 6th and end later in December, and then Cary Council elections are set for March of the 8th, 2022. So that concludes staff's presentation. There is motion language at your seat tonight. After you discuss that, you can use the motion language. And I'm here for any questions.
Questions or comments?
Question. The election's March 8th. What happens if we have a runoff? When is that?
It's not actually a set date yet. It depends on what happens in some of the other statewide primaries. So if there needs to be a primary runoff election in a race, then our runoff would be the same date.
Okay.
If not, I think they have set a date of April 26th. Susan's nodding yes, April 26th.
April 26th?
Yes. So tentative.
Is that the week of spring break?
Not for Wake County schools. That's earlier in April.
Okay. Oh, that's right. It's like,
Don't mess with my spring break.
mess with my spring break.
Absentee ballot. Other questions, comments?
Just comments. One, I want to thank Lisa, Dana, and everybody that worked
Susan.
really hard to not only get to this, but way back when we were still trying to have our election in October, the effort that you all put into that, and I know you did a lot of work, and it was, just thank you for it. I really, really thank you for it, but unfortunately, that didn't work out, so, but, you know, I mean, I think we're all pretty much fine with one of these. Let's pick one. I like option 1.
Other thoughts, questions, comments? Motion?
I move that we adopt the option 1 redistricting ordinance attached to the staff report.
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? I'm good. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Glover. That concludes our business for the evening, and unless there's an objection, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I object.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website at townofcary.org.